It's that time, Dominica. That time when we say welcome, welcome, welcome to the Talk on the Block. If it's on the block, we'll talk about it. If you're in Dominica, the region, and the rest of the world, locked in at this time on the various platforms, the pleasure is mine. We're going to take a break. When we come back, talk.
They're smooth.
And then there's Guinness Smooth.
It's a brand new cool.
Incredibly smooth.
Perfectly balanced.
For a smooth and refreshing taste.
How smooth? Well smooth. Guinness smooth.
For a smooth and refreshing taste. New Guinness Smooth. Must be 18 years or older. Drink responsibly. Socialize responsibly.
Locally distributed by Belfast Estate Limited.
Kaiso! Yes, the Calypso season is upon us. Saturday, December 13, 2025 at the Factory, Valley Road. Only $20. 8 o'clock, sitting only $30. Come here at the beginning of the season and make sure you're there till the end. Many Calypsonians will be competing. Only 12 gladiators will make it. The grand eliminations for the 2026 Calypso season. Saturday, 13 December 2025. Remember, 8 o'clock at the Factory. Come here, the funny songs, the serious songs, political songs, everything. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your dog and come. Kaiso.
Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing vibes to health with Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Each and every Wednesday from 10 to 11:30 a.m. with your hosts, Trudy Kristen, and co-host pharmacist Jacinta Fagan and Leona Jeremiah. Education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together with Health Vibes. So be sure to tune in each and every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
During the hurricane season, if you are evacuating, leave early so that you are not stranded by flooded roads, fallen trees, wires, and traffic jams, and make sure you have enough fuel in your vehicle and follow routes and highways. A message from Q95 FM Radio.
All right, Dominica, we're here, and of course, we're monitoring the elections there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I just received a report that as Vincentians continue to vote in the general elections, a video circulating on social media shows that the ULP candidate, Carlos James, seemingly in confrontation with a police officer at a police station in North Wilden, near North Leeward. According to reports, James told the Vincentian Times, "It's a fight for democracy, and I will stand up for it. Agents sharing the same table was my objection. I go to another police station, and the police is telling me I can't be inside. I know the RPA, and I'm allowed inside for 20 or 15 minutes. James is the ULP candidate and won the seat in 2020. In the video, James is seemingly debating with an officer, and the people, you can hear people shouting on the outside, "Throw him out! He should not be here." So some confrontation going on there in St. Vincent. I'm sure you'll get more updates as we move along. James left after seemingly falling to the ground after the police tried to escort him on the outside. I've contacted my correspondent there in St. Vincent, try to get an update sometime later in the program. But when we look and, of course, pay attention to what is happening in St. Vincent, we seem to be paying less attention to what may be imminent in Venezuela. A war that our leaders should be talking about and preparing for the worst, if any. But apparently they've been very, very silent about it. And guess who's in the house? Not in New York this time. Not on the telephone, live in studios. Our seasoned diplomat and former UN Ambassador Crispin Gregoire. He's been paying attention on the Dominica and the rest of the region, the world, up to date as to what's going on in Venezuela. There's a lot of reports. I'm even hearing a report from Maduro, quote, that the U.S. won't be able to defeat Venezuela. We are invincible. That's a quote from Maduro. Oh, really? Well, let's say good afternoon to Mr. Crispin Gregoire. How are you doing, sir? How are you?
Good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon. Very pleased to be in the studio with you this afternoon.
Good to have you, always.
Good afternoon. Let me say good afternoon to all your many listeners across the many borders in the region and internationally. And let me say a happy Thanksgiving to the U.S. diaspora of Dominica. And don't eat too much turkey.
Well, you can tell them that right now because somebody just called me, actually singing over a turkey. So they're enjoying themselves. They're enjoying themselves in there in the U.S. But let's concentrate and move quickly to the discussion at hand. Crispin, what's the latest in Venezuela? See, everybody seems concentrating on the elections in St. Vincent and St. Lucia, but paying no attention to Venezuela. What's going on there?
Well, a lot is going on, Matt. One, I hope that people don't develop a fatigue with Venezuela because it's taking a longer time than we thought. But, military kind of interventions like the one we about to witness take
You say
time.
about to witness, like you're very sure it's going to happen.
Matt, I'm not a magician, so I'm not very sure, but a lot of things, I can only speculate based on what I see.
Okay.
Here we have the largest U.S. Military or naval mobilization since the Cuban missile crisis of 1962.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the U.S. has intervened in after that in the Dominican Republic in 1965, then in Grenada in 1983, then in Panama in 1989,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, before that, we know the role that the U.S. played in Chile in 1973. Um, Matt, I don't think that the President Trump would order 17% of the U.S. Navy to be in the Caribbean for no reason. Well, it is, some people say, to scare President Maduro. Well, there are much shorter measures you could take to scare him. So I think I can almost say that I believe the U.S. will intervene. I can't say they will. They might not. There are variables that we can talk about. But right now we have the aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford. That boat carries 75 bombers, and these bombers can land. They have a landing strip on the boat, so that gives you it's 75 bombers. Some of them have carried serious missiles. Um, what we don't know now is whether the U.S. will actually land troops on Venezuela. They might. It's possible that they might not do that, but they have full plans to do that. Everything is on the table, Matt. And including, what frightens me is including assassinations of Venezuelan leaders. That's all in the mix. So it's we're heading into a dangerous time. I don't know, now that we're heading into December um, and Christmas, all of these things that in the equation. Venezuela is a very Catholic country. And I wanted this afternoon to talk a little bit about what the Venezuelans themselves are doing, because they are preparing for a U.S. intervention. One of the things, Matt, is that the Venezuelan army could easily be trunked by the U.S. I mean, they will decapitate the Venezuelan army, but a lot of the rank and file of the army might just wait and see what happens and switch sides. If, let's say, there's the army is defeated, whatever happens there, the army is going to come under serious pressure from the U.S. Now, there are groups of people who are ready to fight. There's the group called the Colectivos. These are pro-Maduro
Fighters?
fighters, yes.
Okay.
Right. And they run into the thousands, and they're well armed. And then you have, what is interesting to me, there's 1,000 plus battle hardened guerrillas from Colombia. So there's a Colombian guerrilla army that's assisting Maduro as well. And they are already in Venezuela. They're Colombians, but they cross the border. So these are, Colombia has had a long history of these rebels fighting. They had the civil war for 30 years. So some of these guerrillas are now in Venezuela. So they're waiting for the U.S. to land troops, and there will be a fight. There's no doubt about it. If the U.S. lands troops in Venezuela, Matt, it won't be a walkover.
People will die.
People will die, and here's the context of that is beginning to become a reality as we wait and see what's going to happen. Experts are saying that the 15,000 U.S. troops aboard these warships, there are about 12 to 14 warships, would not be enough to take control of Venezuela.
Really?
Right. That when the U.S. intervened in Panama, they had 27,000 troops, and here they only have 15,000. So they cannot defeat Maduro with 15,000 troops. One has to take into context the terrain. The South American country, which we call Venezuela, is larger than Texas. And Texas is one of the largest states in the US. And it is home to rugged mountains, Matt. Rugged mountains. I've been to Venezuela one time, but I traveled across the country and I saw these mountains. They call them tabletop mountains. They are flat. They're not like our mountains that are high up. They're flat mountains, but they're jungle, real jungle, Amazon. Venezuela is part of the Amazon. I could see a guerrilla war that would take these troops into the Amazon jungle,
Mhm.
right? So that's what is ahead. Then a lot of the South American countries are opposed to U.S. intervention. Yes, they are. And I'm thinking of after the U.S. intervention, what will be the atmosphere in the region? It will be a very hostile, anti-American sentiment that would come from South America and Central America. The Caribbean, we are small entities. We don't, look at our country. We don't even have 100,000 people. But when you talk about a country like Colombia and the hatred that would come out of that, because it's going to rub on Colombia because of the refugees that will go into Colombia,
Mhm.
those who will go into Trinidad and those who will go elsewhere. Because, the Trump policy in the first term was so hard on the Venezuelan government that 8 million people left Venezuela. 8 million. I don't even know what the total population is. I should have looked that up. I know it's in the 20-something million. But Venezuela is a unique country, an important country. And I also say that Venezuela is our neighbor. We in Dominica, we must treat Venezuela as our neighbor. And whatever happens in Venezuela must be of interest to us. And we don't want bad for Venezuela and for the Venezuelan people. They have suffered quite a bit from 2018 to now. And had to run away and leave their country. And then, one of the things that happened in the last couple of weeks, Matt, is that the Trump administration ended a temporary protection status for them in the U.S. There were about 700,000 Venezuelans who had temporary protection status. That has been revoked. So they have to go home. So that's another pressure on them. But the thing that's emerging in the last 18 hours is that there will be a no-fly zone in the Southern Caribbean. Flights are being already reduced into the region. American airlines are not flying anywhere close to Venezuela for the last 2 months.
So they've already stopped.
They've already reduced the number of flights going to that area. Now, and this has been going on for 2 months, because Matt, we've been following the story since all of October. We now end of November, right? These 2 months. Well, in that 2 months, American Airlines going south towards Colombia, towards Venezuela. Well, no flights to Venezuela anyway from the US, right? That's been going on for a long time. Now we're seeing that European airlines are reducing the number of their flights going into Venezuela. The Venezuelan government earlier, I think on Monday, had said that they put pressure on these European airlines that they must resume their flights, but they are beginning to reduce their flights. So American military activity in the Southern Caribbean means that it's not a safe place to fly. I certainly wouldn't want to fly to Trinidad. Yeah. So that, and then the other impact I had mentioned before in past discussion with you, Matt, about the cruise ship trade. Cruise ships will not be able to go to Grenada, St. Vincent, Trinidad, Tobago. That's a cutoff point. I don't know how far enough the U.S. will put an embargo on shipping, on movement of ships. So that's coming. That's yeah.
Very, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what I find very funny, and I've said, of course, we have discussed it before, is what seemed to be the conspicuous silence of Caribbean leaders as it relates to this pending war, imminent war in Venezuela. Why the silence, though? Why?
Well, I think, Matt, there must be some back channels in which they're using to talk to the U.S. and to the White House, some of the leaders. But my view in this game, they're almost irrelevant. I mean,
You say relevant?
yeah, because the Caribbean leaders, they've been talking about the zone of peace. While they're talking about the zone of peace, we're seeing this arsenal of weapons to do the opposite of peace. And they're not convincing the US to pull out this armada of warships that's there to fight. What's coming is fighting. So I think that they can just be bystanders and watch. I think that's the most they can do, really, Matt. The ambassadors in Washington might be talking to State Department people, but really that's the White House and the Pentagon leading the charge here. The US is poised to do military action in Venezuela. That's coming.
You spoke of the implications of repercussions, Crispin, and the Caribbean should be ready, as you indicated, for war or some sort of action in Venezuela, in that region. Now, what do the Caribbean leaders say to the populace?
Well, I'm not hearing them saying anything about that.
Or what should they say?
Well, I think they should alert their people that there will be some adverse implications for their country, for their respective countries, and especially those closer to Trinidad and Venezuela. I can see impacts, Matt. I mean, fuel could slow down. I mean, if shipping is slowed down, that means food imports from the US could be slowed down. How long this thing takes is a question that we don't know. That's an unknown. But I think that I hope that the ambassadors of the CARICOM countries and also Dominican Republic, because they're not part of CARICOM, are speaking to Department of State and voicing their concerns. Not so much that they don't want war, but to let the US know that there will be implications for their own stability in these countries. All of these countries will.
But I sense that there's some split in CARICOM at this time, and they're not moving in as a unit as we speak. Of course, we just heard Kamala Bissessa saying that she's looking for more out of other countries instead of CARICOM, because she don't like what is going on in CARICOM.
Right.
So can they go there with a united voice, we say?
Well, there's no united voice. No, I don't know.
But no more than ever, we need it.
We do, but Matt, we don't. I mean, Trinidad has opted out of a consensus with the rest of the CARICOM, and I don't know. You said there might be other leaders. I don't know who. I could see Jamaica following Trinidad.
Jamaica?
Yes, in the sense that now after being hit by a hurricane, they need help. They really need help, and they'll probably do whatever the US demands of them. One of the things that's been going on in Jamaica, as far as the US it has to do with the port. The port, I'm not sure if it's the port in Kingston, but one of the ports is managed by a Chinese company.
I heard that, yes.
And the US would like that change. They think it's a security problem for the United States, for that port, that particular port. And I think that port handles a lot of cargo coming into the region from North America.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention before I forget is that the one expert on Venezuela said something which really stuck in my mind. He said that, and I'm quoting him, he says, "You put boots on the ground almost anywhere in Venezuela, particularly in Caracas and along border areas, and you are going to face armed resistance." That's important. That tells me that they're preparing on the ground to face US troops. And knowing the Colombian guerrilla movement, they're not afraid of US troops. They've never been afraid of U.S. troops. So there will be a firefight. If the U.S. put troops on Venezuela soil, there will be a firefight. Trust me.
Hmm.
And,
So we'll have some guerrilla warfare there.
yes, and
That's
then what President Maduro has already said, they will retreat into the Amazon and let the Americans follow them into the Amazon.
Let me take this report as you speak of that, because I'm hearing they're quoting Maduro that he says the U.S. won't be able to defeat Venezuela. We are invincible. Let's listen to this report.
No obstacle in providing
One quarter of the entire U.S. Navy is now perched off the coast of Venezuela, including the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford. Airspace is heavily restricted. Most flights into Venezuela are canceled. Only U.S. President Donald Trump knows what will happen next.
I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela.
As Venezuela's military shows off its own defenses, President Nicolas Maduro is openly daring the Americans to make their move.
Hagan lo que hagan.
However they do it, wherever they do it, they will not be able to defeat Venezuela. We are invincible, he told state TV. The U.S. will only say it's preparing a new phase of operations targeting the Maduro government, going far beyond the unprecedented strikes on alleged drug boats. The Trump administration has designated the Venezuelan Cartel de las Soles a foreign terrorist organization, accusing Maduro and his top officials of leading a sprawling criminal enterprise. Venezuela's foreign ministry rejects the accusation.
Clearly, the designation of Cartel de los Soles is as a foreign terrorist organization is trying to further lay the groundwork and also to try to rattle and scare Maduro.
The unspoken goal seems to be regime change, whether through coercion or by force. Covert American operations inside Venezuela may come first. Airstrikes could follow. Military analysts don't believe there will be a full-scale ground invasion.
Right now in the region, we have about 10,000 troops. That's not nearly enough to engage in any kind of invasion of Venezuelan territory.
Though Trump insists he's still willing to talk to Maduro, there seems to be little left to discuss. The signs all point to a decision that's already been made, with American troops massed and awaiting their final orders. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
The United States.
It's clear that something is imminent, Crispin. It's but Venezuela seems like they're ready to fight. Will they take on the U.S.?
Well, they're no match for the U.S. I mean, the U.S. will decapitate them in a short time. They have the firepower to do that. But what troubles me is the aftermath of a U.S. intervention, because you have a country with a lot of people. You have a country that has lost 8 million people as refugees.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have more refugees. It's going to inundate the neighboring countries, Colombia on the one hand, places like Ecuador and Bolivia. And then you're going to have Venezuelans going into Guyana, right? Because that's the immediate neighbor. So you have Colombia on one side, Guyana on the other side. You can be sure that there will be refugees flowing in both sides of the two neighbors. And then Trinidad, they have to take boats to get to Trinidad, but Trinidad is only 7 miles away, 7 nautical miles. So it's pretty close. So people will take boats.
Boats.
Well,
you've seen what has happened to the boats going to Venezuela. Will they take chance? Will they take a chance?
Well, Matt, when you have a flotilla of refugees heading out, I don't know what the U.S. will do. So these are some of the considerations the United States needs to warm up to, that there's going to be adverse impact. And that is why we shouldn't have an intervention. We should try to.
So you don't support the intervention?
No, I never support intervention, Matt. Nowhere. And I don't think that big powers should impose on small countries like Venezuela.
Do you think it's too late for diplomacy?
No, there's no. Diplomacy is always there and open. There are times when we go, diplomacy is no longer an option. I think we can still keep talking, and I hope that talk is going on. President Trump said that Mr. Maduro would like to talk to him, and he was open to that. As your report said, that we don't know, there's not much to talk about.
On the telephone, are you there? Caller, are you there? Good afternoon. Yes.
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me, Matt?
I'm hearing you. Yes.
Yeah, Matt, I have a different point of view on this. I don't know if Christian is going to agree with me.
Okay.
Matt, if the invasion come through, this is not going to be Donald Trump. This is going to be the Secretary of State, Matt Rubio. Because the reason I'm saying that, Matt, what Rubio want to do, as we say in Dominica, he want to dope out too. So if they could invade Venezuela and come through, that means they're going to they're choking the oil and gas that's going to be going to Cuba. And you know how Rubio hates Cuba. So I think that's what, it's about gas. And it's also about choking the Cuban government, our friends. I would like to hear what Christian got to say about that.
Christian, is this about Cuba? Yeah.
Very early in the pronouncements about and the amassing all of this force in the Southern Caribbean, it crossed my mind that Cuba could well be in that equation. And what the caller just said, it's important to understand Marco Rubio, who is I say is the second most powerful man in Washington. He's both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. He's a Cuban American. He detests the government in Cuba. He understands that one of the lifelines of the Cuban government is Venezuela, and particularly oil from Venezuela. If they could shut that down, if they could bring regime change in Venezuela, it would have an immediate adverse effect on Cuba. It would hurt the Cuban government badly, and could really bring them to their knees. So, and who knows, with that kind of armed force, they can invade Cuba. This time they have enough ships to do a naval blockade of Cuba, as the Cuban Missile Crisis happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The reason why the U.S. did not invade Cuba in 1962 was it would have been a nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States. They came, Matt, the term was eyeball to eyeball. That was what happened in 1962. The two powers, United States and the Soviet Union, then almost went to nuclear war in the Caribbean. This time, here's what we're seeing this time. This is not all about Venezuela. This is a fight among the powers. Venezuela is important in it because there are resources in Venezuela that all free powers want. One of those resources is lithium, which you need for making electric car batteries. And also, Venezuela has many rare earths. That's a term that we're getting more and more used to now, rare earths. These are different types of formation of land that has minerals in them, different kinds of minerals. And Venezuela has quite a few of them, of these rare earths. But they have copper, and they have gold, and they have iron ore, which is very important because futuristically, I could see a Venezuela that's stable producing electric cars because they have iron ore to make steel. And so they could become an industrial power beyond oil and gas. It's an important country. And I think for us, we must always treat Venezuela as our neighbor. And I cannot belabor that point because of Isla de Aves, what we call Bird Island. It's not ours. They have sovereignty over it, but it's in our exclusive economic zone. So therefore, we, more than any other CARICOM country, even Trinidad, does not have that kind of... Trinidad is close to them, but Trinidad's EEZ is not that wide.
So what's your take? Of course, yes, you don't support invasion,
Intervention.
invention,
Yes.
invasion. But so what's your take on Maduro and a lot of accusations as to the way he's conducting elections is not the best, and we've seen some irregularities around that. So people are very very basically saying this country is not democratic. So why would you not want to support the Americans going into Venezuela when they don't
I
support?
think I would prefer to see a process where the U.S. is able to work out with Maduro an exit plan for him out of power, because seemingly
Ask him to go to exile.
well, that's always an option, but seemingly he lost the election. I have not seen all the documentation because up to now
But it
I
appears
don't-
that way.
Yeah, Maduro has himself not given the evidence to say that he won. I mean, the president of Brazil, President Lula, asked Maduro to do that, and he supports Maduro. The thing is that I mean, seemingly, it looks like Maduro lost the election. Now, if you lose the election,
So why is
then-
he holding on to power then?
Well, that is one of the problems he has, right? One of the problems he has. And the US is now ratcheting up the pressure on him to leave because they call him an illegitimate president. And now they have now designated on Monday that Venezuela is a terrorist, the government is a terrorist organization. And that's a serious thing from US law. Because when US designates you a terrorist, that has very serious implications for your own stability, your own. So that is the latest thing that the US has done. They've now designated Maduro's government a terrorist government, a terrorist.
Let's take a phone call. Are you there? Yes.
Hey, Mr. Senator, blessings to you, sir.
Blessings to you, sir.
Crispin, blessings and welcome home, bro.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Blessings.
Just a few things quickly. Crispin, when Venezuela threatened to invade Guyana, where were these leaders, even those retired leaders, prime ministers? Why didn't they talk about a zone of peace to Venezuela? And I'm not supporting America action. I'm just telling you about the hypocrisy of these leaders and Kamala Assad talking about, she backing off. The other thing, my brother, I think it's a larger objective with the advent of China in the region. And America would just feel they cannot tolerate that. So it is more than just little, not little, but Venezuela or Cuba or one of those countries there. America just want to say, yo, we are not dead. Even losing Afghanistan, we're losing Iraq or wherever the thing. I think it is a greater thing. And you said something, why the Caribbean leaders, I think Matt asked you, are not educating the people? Town hall meetings and things, go in the rural areas, talk to farmers, talk to vendors, talk to different people, particularly where sustaining ourselves are concerned if something happen in the region. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, clearly there's big power rivalry here. Russia and China have filled in the vacuum to some extent after the US put serious sanctions on Maduro going back 2018. So Maduro has been under a lot of pressure from US sanctions, and he couldn't even sell his oil, and then he will not get spare parts for the oil industry. Will not, and so the Chinese and the Russians would supplied Maduro with things that he would not, that the US would make it difficult for him to get. And then there's also another country who's also involved, is Iran. There's an Iranian angle to this, right? But I would say it's more the Russians and the Chinese that the US is concerned about in there. And I think, and Matt, one of the reasons why I really believe that on the Russian side, part of the flotilla of weaponry and ships, submarines. I mean, there's nuclear submarines in the waters as well. So clearly, there must, maybe the Russians and the Chinese have submarines in the Caribbean Sea, and the U.S. plans to destroy them. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but all of those things are possible.
Somebody saying, Matt, I understand Ambassador Greg was concerned of Venezuela's defense. We must note that the U.S. war strategy since Panama is different and more modern. So they don't need 25,000 soldiers like Panama. And also, other leaders who were targeted also talk the big talk, but they just don't have what it takes to defeat the U.S. A diplomatic solution is the best for the region at this point.
No, I totally agree about the diplomatic solution. I think that what the other Caribbean countries have failed to do, Matt, is to tell President Maduro, well, partner, if you lost the election, you should consider leaving the presidential palace. And I think that it's always better to have a diplomatic solution, Matt. Not because I was a diplomat and but I don't like war. That's one, because war brings on other problems that are unforeseen by the people who plan war. Because you're going to have a lot of suffering. I mean, Venezuela has a lot of poor people, and a war situation, depending on how long it lasts, could bring untold suffering to that country.
All right, let's go. Are you there, caller? Yes?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
I want to the police position on the new Ukraine. Nobody is talking about Ukraine. Russia went in there, they annexed Crimea, and they just don't want to leave. None of the others are saying anything. Talking about that. What the problem in Ukraine? The Africans are giving them Israel here and Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, and it's an example of a major power intervening in a neighboring country. So typically, major powers do things that's in their best interest, and that's what Russia and Ukraine is all about, their national interests, and also the reason that at the end of the Cold War, the Russians had said, don't come 1 inch closer to our territory, and they had won. So the Ukraine problem could have been averted, but we are in war. I mean, we're going almost 3 years into this war, and it should come to an end. I just hope that we don't end up in another war with Venezuela and it becomes a prolonged conflict, because it has the ingredients for it to become a prolonged guerrilla war conflict is real.
The world's will is up, and the Americans. What about the Russians?
What about the Russians? I didn't get
What about the Russians in Ukraine?
He says, what about
the Russians should pull out of Ukraine. I believe in the territorial integrity of Ukraine as a country, and I think that the time I don't know. I mean, the President Trump has put out a so-called plan for Ukraine, and I don't know if that's going to bring about a diplomatic solution. It's a very complicated reality that we have with Ukraine. The Russians are not going to pull out of Ukraine just like that without getting the territorial concessions, and that's a huge challenge. And let's see if President Trump can play a leadership role and bring a peace outcome. But I have grave doubts, especially if Ukraine is going to lose a significant amount of territory.
More telephone calls are coming in here. Let's see if we can take this one. Are you there, caller? No. Let's try this one. Are you there?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the discussion, right? And it really irks me because people keep talking about Maduro. Nobody's telling Trump you need to keep quiet and be the seven, leave the people alone. Who gives Trump the authority, who or whatever gives him the authority to decide who should rule Venezuela? But nobody's saying nothing. All they talk about Maduro lost the election and need to go. I'm not supporting Maduro, but what I'm saying, we have to look at this thing holistically. Who gives Trump the authority? Look at what happened in the States. He gone mash up the Capitol building. He should be in jail now, but that is the system. It's protected because he's president. Now he come down to the Caribbean and claim Maduro shouldn't be in government. But that's nonsense, and nobody's saying that. When they talk about Maduro should be somebody else. Trump has no authority. Who gives him the right? Who gives him the right?
I totally agree with you, but there's one thing that you're forgetting, and that is there's such a thing as might is right. When the United States decides to intervene in any country in its backyard that it has deemed a threat to its national security, it's just going to act. Are you there?
But they can't do nothing. As somebody said, they can't do nothing in Russia, right? And China. Then it's where they have to go and exercise their might and their might. You want to go to Venezuela and do what? And is Venezuela not the problem? China and Russia, the problem. They can't do China and Russia. You see? But they want to flex in muscle. Who gives Trump the right and what? Gives him the authority to decide who should be and who should be what? Look at his own country. Look at what he's doing in America. Look at what Trump did in America. And he wants to decide who could run who what? This is just foolish. And nobody saying that. Everybody figure out, well, Mike is right. Mike is right, yes. But one thing you must understand too, Mr. Berger. There's a higher power. There's a higher power.
Has not stopped the U.S. interventions going back to the last century. So you see, when we talk about global politics and interests of powers, we have to be real. There are things that we wish should not be done, and then the opposite of what we wish should not be done is what happens. I have seen time and time again the U.S. intervene in different countries, and the U.S. has taken its beatings. I mean, in my lifetime, the U.S. lost the war in Vietnam. The U.S. intervened in Panama. Well, they didn't lose because they deposed Manuel Noriega. They went into Afghanistan and they had to run, and they went into Iraq. They had to run. So the U.S. has, they like to intervene, and sometimes they get whipped, and they've been getting whipped over the last few years. And one of the things that has happened to the United States is that all of these interventions in all of these countries has cost them a lot of money, to the extent that they're intervening in debt. I mean, the intervention into Iraq and Afghanistan was actually done on debt. Do you know who bought that debt? The Japanese and the Chinese. So today, America has a debt of $37 trillion. A lot of that is from their wars, from fighting wars abroad and losing. And now they want to intervene in places like in their backyard now, because they're losing. As a power, the United States is no longer the major power in the world. They used to be after the Cold War, but we've reached a point, once we entered into this century, of many little powers emerging. And the dominant stance the U.S. had after the Cold War ended in 1989, that time is over. The U.S. is no longer the dominant power in the world. And so, therefore, they have to exercise caution. And it could well be, Matt, that one of the reasons it's taking so long for this to happen, whatever is going to happen, is that the Russians and the Chinese are probably talking to the U.S. about not intervening in Venezuela. I think all of that is in the mix.
Take a break. We'll come right back, Dominica. This is, of course, the Talk on the Block.
There's Smooth.
And then there's Guinness Smooth.
It's a brand new cool.
Incredibly smooth.
Perfectly balanced.
For a smooth and refreshing taste.
Then how smooth? Well smooth. Guinness Smooth.
For a smooth and refreshing taste. New Guinness Smooth. Must be 18 years or older. Drink responsibly. Socialize responsibly.
Locally distributed by Belfast Estate Limited.
It's Kaiso. Yes, the Calypso season is upon us. Saturday, December 13, 2025 at the Factory, Valley Road. Only $20. 8 o'clock, sitting only $30. Come here, the beginning of the season. And make sure you're there till the end. Many Calypsonians will be competing. Only 12 gladiators will make it. The grand eliminations for the 2026 Calypso season. Saturday, 13 December 2025. Remember, 8 o'clock at the Factory. Come here, the funny songs, the serious songs, political songs, everything. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your dog and come. Kaiso.
Madam Boboy Madi, Laupali, Idipoti Rice and Company. Yele Rice and Company, the only company I know with Bryce was cooking butter and back and neck. Now with the last valley short, I said Bryce. In the old plus nefla, where you have a roofing material and seamless guttering. Yes, 24 gauge governors, all colors. Ever open Nipu gas peel agent, they program the computer to give you the exact size you want. And the seamless guttering, aluminum, that can better withstand the elements. You have in an easy way, so no leaking after a while. And so much more. Bryce and Company, the app by 8 bank close to the old mill at Enfield. Telephone 617-2468.
Just received Able Farm evaporated milk, delicious and nutritious, rich and creamy. Perfect for all uses, for drinking, for tea, coffee, cocoa, punches, juices, cooking, baking, ice pops, and ice cream, and everything else. Prices start as low as $1.55 per can. Able Farm evaporated milk. Available in 2 varieties, each in 2 sizes of cans. Able Farm evaporated milk. Available wholesale and retail at Esar Trading Limited. That meant nice, boy. Esar Trading Limited, making a difference for you.
Milky milk, milky milk, milky milky milk. Milky milk, milky milky milky.
Somebody's asking me to ask you, Crispin. Where does Dominica get its gas from? Trinidad or Venezuela? Because I know there's been some sanctions in Venezuela for some time, preventing them from selling oil. So where do we get our gas from? That's the question somebody's asking.
Yeah. I think that most of the petroleum that comes here comes from Trinidad. Of course, Trinidad has a refinery. Venezuela, their capacity to provide petroleum products under Petrocaribe, it declined quite a bit with the sanctions from 2018. And I believe that from 2018, they were not sending refined petroleum products like gas and kerosene and diesel. But I stand to be corrected. I don't know where Petrocaribe gets their oil from. I think it's coming from Trinidad, but I'm not absolutely sure.
All right, somebody's saying I suspect a retired soul there, and the U.S. Army says, just want to remind your listeners that the old conventional war, as we knew it before, it is changing. But the introduction of high-tech drones and robotic soldiers, etc., is not a game changer. Not even the guerrillas themselves can survive it like we see in Ukraine and in Russia.
Right, and then you now have the guerrillas who have drones. So
so both sides have the same.
Yes, both sides have. For example, Iran is a factor in this in the Venezuelan equation. Iran is a big manufacturer of drones for fighting. We're talking about military hardware drones, right? And they make
so the Venezuelans won't be intimidated by that.
Yeah, but they have. Here's the thing: their weaponry, they have good weapons too, but it will be no match for the U.S. The U.S. has superior weapons.
Okay.
I expect that's why I mentioned the guerrilla war, because you see the Venezuelans' forte could be they're going to wait for the U.S. to intervene, and then they're going to draw the U.S. into hostile Venezuelan territory. That could be a strategy for their military.
That is their ace card.
That's the ISCA. And they have the terrain. They have the Amazon jungle. You would have to fight them there too. And so it's not a walkover, but but because of the superior might of the US will triumph if they intervene. I don't know how long it will take, but can they occupy Venezuela? And here's something that somebody's asking, Matt, and I should quote, and that is it says here, there would be rising demands for U.S. reconstruction aid following U.S.-backed overthrow of Maduro. But Trump is famously no fan of nation building. And this one man says here, what about the day after the coup? Is the U.S. willing to spend $100 billion to help stabilize Venezuela? And that's a good, legitimate question.
Very interesting question there. Let's see if we can take a voice note. Yes,
Matt, we don't know what secrets there are because, these guys were called in. Remember, they were called in. And we don't know how they were grilled and what they were instructed to do. They may be instructed by the U.S. to keep your mouth shut and play the game and pretend you're on Maduro's side, but just keep your mouth shut. And we have our own deal. We don't know. We don't know. War is dirty business. And there's the famous saying, the first casualties of war is the truth.
More telephone calls. Are you there? Yes?
The first I'll say good afternoon, sir. And good afternoon to your expert gentleman there, Mr. Gregoire.
Yes, sir.
Matt, a little while ago, the BBC told us that Vladimir Putin has refused to sign any peace deal with Ukraine. He says Ukraine belongs to us, no peace deal at all. So he's not going to sign anything. So we're in trouble there. But my question to the retired ambassador, who I think really is an expert, is that, Mr. Christine, is Venezuela and Dominica very close? So is Dominica and China. But both China and Venezuela are sort of supposed to be enemies, in inverted commas, of America. So where do we sit in that equation in terms of, will the Americans put sanction on us? What do you think?
Caller, good afternoon. It's you're asking a very good question and part of the larger matrix that's evolving in the Caribbean. We have something quite interesting in that in 1983, the U.S. intervened in Grenada, not only because Maurice Bishop and some of his ministers were executed by their former colleagues in the New Jewel movement, but the U.S. said that they were concerned about the security of their students at the medical school. So that was one. But the larger issue was that an adversary of the U.S. was building an airport in the U.S. backyard. We are in that very, very same situation today with our airport that's being built right now by Chinese company and maybe Chinese government. We don't know. We haven't been told whether it's the Chinese government or we've been told it's passport money. Some people don't agree with that. They say that's the Chinese government financed airport. But we back to the same situation like 1983, where the adversary of the United States is building an airport in its backyard. That's cause for concern, Matt. And that puts Dominica squarely on the radar of United States as far as that airport that's under construction. The U.S. once has said, definitely under President Trump, that they will counter the Chinese in the Caribbean. And I think that Dominica is one of the theaters of that countering strategy that the U.S. is about.
You really think so?
Yes, I do. I do, Matt. I have no doubt. And the reason, what I'm picking up out of Washington, the sentiments both in the Congress and in the administration is that airport is being built for military purposes. That is their view of the airport. And more
You mean the much talked about airport? Yes.
Yeah, the airport.
The one in
at
Wesley Woodfordale.
At Wesley Woodfordale, yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, Matt, you see the parallel that I'm making here, that what happened in 83 with the Grenada airport being built by the enemy of the US, at that time the Soviets and the Cubans, we're seeing the same thing, an airport being built by the adversary or the country that the US considers their adversary, which is China. They are the ones building the airport. Now, it may well be that, yes, they were contracted by MMC. I don't believe that. I honestly, Matt, I'm being very fair here. I don't believe this story about MMCE. I don't. I think that that airport is going to come under scrutiny of United States and may well be deemed a security challenge to United States. And if the US, if Mr. Trump ever says that, you know that airport is going to face problems. So we are at a dangerous point. So what's what I'm saying, that whole Venezuela, and the caller who called about it said that the whole Venezuela thing, it's not about Venezuela alone, Matt. This is larger than Venezuela. It's the powers. You always have to put this thing in the context of the major powers are again fighting in the Caribbean Sea. And this has gone on for centuries. I mean, if you go back to the 18th century, there were wars between France and UK, and then you had the Netherlands and Denmark. All of these powers were in the Caribbean fighting for territory. Now they're in the Caribbean for another reason, because of oil. Oil is a major factor here, but it's also the independence of a country like Venezuela, asserting their independence. And look, we are not in anybody's backyard. You've heard that before. The Venezuelans strongly take that position. And that's the position that most of the South American countries take towards the United States. So after that, after Maduro is overthrown or however he leaves office, Venezuela will be unstable, in my view. I don't see it as going to be stable anytime soon.
All right, let's say, Matt, the U.S. is still, somebody's saying, the U.S. is still the number one military power, economic power, one of the top two. The UK leads NATO, G7 Quad. I don't know what that next word is. Accor. U.S. is still the number one in innovation, AI innovation, and aerospace. Bottom line, the U.S. is still the dominant global power, superpower. I suspect as a Trump fan.
Yeah, well, without a doubt, the U.S. is still the dominant power, yes, but a power that is now facing a whole range of competitors. Not so much
China and Russia.
China and Russia principally, but you have a group of countries called the BRICS. That is Brazil, Russia, Iran. Let's see. I can't remember which one is C, but South Africa is one of that, the BRICS. And now this group of countries has grown. They started about 5 countries, and it's grown to about 11 or 12. And they have some that will live in that block of countries. That's half of the world's population. So the US is losing influence in the world, Matt. And one of the biggest mistakes I can say, I mean, I can comfortably say that one of the biggest mistakes I've seen under the Trump administration is that they closed down USAID, which is the soft power of the United States. So you close that down, and so you make a lot of people outside the United States unhappy with United States. And that was, I think that was a misguided policy of the Trump administration to close USAID down.
Let's take a voice talk.
Hello, Matt. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Matt, I listened to some of the discussion, Matt. The ambassador that is there with you, Matt, I believe his businesses, his interests now is about what happening to Russia and China and those places, and not what happening to Dominica. Matt, Hugo Chavez come to Dominica some years back, and he said that Venezuela is our mother country. But if you see the life of a mother fowl, you understand the way a mother fowl operates. The weakest chicken is the one the mother fall taking the most care of. And if Venezuela is our mother country, we have rights in Bird Island, in Bird Rock. Mr. Ambassador, is it not now our best time to talk about Bird Rock, our rights, and how we can get back what these people trying to take away from us to give to Venezuela, while President Trump want to go to Venezuela to regulate Venezuela for Venezuelans and the world? So why Dominica is not saying something about their rights to Bird Rock instead of talking about Russia and what Russia and what Russia? Leave Russia in peace, leave China in peace, leave all the forces that Hugo Chavez and his goons put together to protect what is happening to us in the Caribbean. Look at Ralph Gonzalez crying, please, please, to re-elect him. The amount of corruption those governments in the region doing with the people and thieving the people money. Recently, I listened to one Dominican man say he have 99.9% of a business in Dominica that is an investment that come from the CBI. Why these men not talking about that? Mr. Ambassador, try to mind our business, and it's time for us to wake up and talk about Dominica business, because we have interest there that is losing out.
Well, I'll tell you based on what I heard from the ambassador, does Bird Island really belong to Dominica? A lot of questions about that. I mean,
yeah. Well,
so
well,
please clarify for me, please.
Yeah. Well, two things I wanted to correct about the caller. Thank you for your call, caller. First of all, I would like him to show me where President Chavez said that they're the mother country of Dominica. I have never seen such.
I never heard it before, yeah.
And I don't think, knowing President Chavez, he would never say something like that. So that needs to, you need to correct that. The second thing about Bird Island, I don't like to call it Bird Island because you see, an island is different from an island is different from a sandbank, of which Bird Rock is really a rock and not an island. Now, as far as Dominica's legal standing with regards to Bird Rock, the Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, said some years in Guyana, I think I was wrong, somewhere before 2010, that we didn't have any legal problem with Venezuela over Bird Rock or Bird Island, or preferably called Isla de Aves, the island of birds. And in a way, the Prime Minister Skerrit was correct when he said that we don't the issue, the legal existence of Bird Rock or Bird Island had been settled long before we became independent. And how it was settled is that the major countries in the region, the powers, that's United States, Netherlands, for St. Martin, and France, they recognized the boundaries of Venezuela, and that island, they agreed, belongs to Venezuela. So Venezuela got sovereignty of that island way before we got independence.
So why is that debate continuing?
I'm coming to that. Good question, Matt. What happened, what changed things was the Law of the Sea Convention, which did not exist then. The Law of the Sea Convention, it brought on something that's important, and that is it gave countries, where possible, 200-mile economic zone. In our particular case, we have 200 miles of sea. That's our economic zone. If, let us say, we want to fish in that 200 miles, that's ours to fish. We can do that. But Venezuela could also do that only if Bird Island was an island. But because it's not an island, it's a rock. Rocks don't have territorial waters. We as a country, every country has at least 12 miles of territorial waters around the country, right? In some countries, they don't have that option because they're landlocked. But countries where they have oceans, they will have some water that of the ocean that belongs to your national boundary.
Okay.
For us, it's 12 miles going north to go towards Guadeloupe, 12 miles going to the south. And then going east
to west
would also be 12 miles. But beyond the 12 miles, there's what's called the economic zone.
Ah, okay.
Right.
I get you.
And in the economic zone, there are resources. There are fish. There's fish is one. In some places, there's what's called manganese on the seabed, on the seafloor. And then there are other minerals in the sea that can be mined, right? So if, let us say, Bird Rock has they don't have the 12 miles water, and they don't have the economic zone either. They're in our economic zone. So we can say to Venezuela, you can't develop anything there without our involvement.
Okay.
And Matt, what I have been told, right? The CIA established that 20% of the world's gas is in that area. 20% of the world's gas is in that Bird Island area. Now, if that were to be exploited, we as a country, Dominica, would have an interest in it. Right now, the ownership of Bird Island is in the hands of the Venezuelans. They even built a naval facility there, and they're chasing boats from coming around there. I'm told that top officers in the,
Yeah,
in
the
the
parties
Navy,
there.
yeah, they have weddings. They have weddings there. So they built a naval facility on stilts. Now, that's one of the things. The Americans could chase them out of there too. So there's that possibility can happen.
A lot of clarifications there. A lot of questions have been asked about Bird Island. So I'm happy that the ambassador, of course, tried to clarify, the existence of Bird Island and who's actually the owners.
Yeah, the sovereignty is on the Venezuelan sovereignty, and that will never change. And Matt, when I went to Venezuela, while President Chavez was still president, he had invited the ambassadors of CARICOM in New York to Caracas. I happened at the time to be the chair of the CARICOM group of ambassadors in New York, so I led the delegation of ambassadors to Venezuela. And I was really amazed that the Venezuelans, they're very nationalistic. They're very concerned about their country. They don't like American imperialism on them. That they hate. And that's a Latin thing. That's not just Venezuelan. All of the Latins hate U.S. intervention and U.S. domination of their countries. Now, the caller before mentioned that what Trump is trying to do is to help to bring democracy and all of that. Well, even under Chavez, it was quite democratic. Chavez won by an election.
Mm-hmm.
When they saw Chavez was winning, they tried a coup to prevent Chavez from winning, but he prevailed. And what he did, which was instructive, is after they tried to overthrow him, and then they had to bring him back. The CIA was involved and all of that. And Chavez changed the constitution. And 60% of the population supported the new constitution. So Chavez had overwhelming support. And then what he did, and that is why he was hated by the Americans, and they hate Maduro for that too, is that they kicked out the foreign corporations that own the oil industry. Kicked them out. And they were mostly American.
On the telephone, I don't talk to me. Yes. We missed that call. Are you there, caller? Sorry about that. Yes.
Just quickly, Doc, let me say something. These Caribbean leaders, do they take that serious, how volatile or explosive that is? You have Russia and China that may have submarines submerged in Caribbean waters. Boom, one being torpedoed. What is going to happen, Doc? Do you think everybody will just go and sleep? It can provoke a non-conventional intervention by Russia, China, or America. And these leaders, maybe they're preoccupied still in elections because, in the whole region is election time. Even in Dominica, we're anticipating elections. So no wonder they're not paying mind to what is happening in Venezuela or in the Caribbean, generally speaking. These people are sick and they're busy stealing elections and monies and land and everything. So they don't care about Venezuela. They don't care. I like Kamala Passat defense, although I criticize her in the initial stages. Thank you.
All right, let's see. I think we can take a phone call there. A WhatsApp. Somebody says, I'm not reading your message. There's so many messages to read. You don't understand. Matt, the airport is not an airport designed for civil aviation. The airport is a military base, and the beach is at Londonderry is there for the port. U.S. authorities are watching that very closely. For 49, that's what somebody's saying, that it's not for commercial, it's or civil aviation. It's a military base. That's what somebody's expressing. I cannot confirm that though.
Yeah, there are a lot of things about the airport we don't know because we haven't been, as a country, been given much information about the specifics of the airport, and one of them is the whole question of the environmental, social, and impact assessment. And I know that there's litigation now about that. I would, I certainly, as a Dominican, would want to know more about the airport and its and what's going to happen when it's built and who will run it. And we've been told that there would be no debt profiles for Dominica when that airport is built. Let's hope that is the case. And a question of who's going to manage that airport after is one that is unknown. So. Whether the people who are building it will be the ones who will run it after the Chinese, these are questions that we don't know the answers to those things.
A voice note.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you,
I'm
sir.
listening to you and Crispin, and somebody called and said that we should worry about Russia and this one and that one. That's fine, but in the real world, I would like Crispin to expound on that airport that not an airport, but a Deepwater Harbor just opened in Latin America, where a lot of businesses is built by the Chinese, and a lot of businesses in Latin America are now bypassing California ports for the import into Latin America, which has taken a lot of businesses out of America's port and is now carried from China to Latin America. So the influx of the Chinese in Latin America is going to create a problem for the Caribbean, because don't forget, we in the Americas. We say the Caribbean, but we are in the Americas. So ultimately, it's all what Crispin is saying. It all has to do with geopolitics. Not just the oil in Venezuela, but the geopolitics. Matt, I'm listening.
All right, so I think somebody seemed to be opposing what you said about the airport in Dominica, and he's saying there, Crispin, the Chinese is building a port in the Bahamas. So what are you talking about? The Chinese is all over. I suspect this person don't even understand the implications.
Yes, they're building ports all over but the point is that Dominica is in the middle of the Caribbean. The Bahamas is almost next door to the U.S. The U.S. is looking at the larger picture of the region and who is doing what. Now, one of the things about China in the region is that it's not all the countries of CARICOM that China has diplomatic relations with. They don't have diplomatic relations with St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, the Free Saints Islands, and then Belize and Haiti. Those 5. And I believe the U.S. will encourage those 5 countries to remain with Taiwan so that there's not a winner takes all for China in the region. But of course, China has nine countries they have diplomatic relations with.
On the telephone, are you there, caller? Yes.
Yeah, just quickly, Crispin, something you need to take into account pertaining to the Chinese said, Matt, you need to get that clipping. The Chinese ambassador to Dominica said, they give us schools and they give us an airport. Matt, it's on the record. That Duran guy, not Loftus, played the Chinese ambassador, claiming that they give us an airport and they give us schools and they give us roads. So check it out to see who airport it is and who is funding the airport. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
That one, I don't know, Blessings. I can only go by what the government of Dominica has told the population, and that is that we would have no debt after the airport is built from money from the CBI. I don't believe that, because what will happen is that for you to build such an airport with CBI money, you would have to sell more passports than the total Dominica population.
On the telephone, 449. We don't have too much more time. We have a stop coming up. Are you there, caller? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Crispin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Mr. Crispin, I want to ask you, based on how you're speaking as a former ambassador and a Pan-African who fight for the downtrodden man, are you aligned with America or what America is trying to do to Venezuela? Because not even Venezuela, even the Caribbean, we having boats bombing, and these people are innocent Trinidadian fishermen. Are you surrendering for America or you? Because I want to get you clear. And the airport, we cannot worry with America. The big land we worry with Trump. Trump don't care about even his own white people. We see 6 million people demonstrating in the street. Old people, he cutting their fooding program, their health program. And these are white people. So I want to tell you, if I was in people like your place, I know you well, you was a man that used to be with Roosy. I would advise the Caribbean leaders, even the oppositions, to form alliance and to protest against what's happening in America.
All right, let's take another phone call. Yes, but you want to respond to that quickly there? He's basically saying that you should take the stand of the Caribbean against the U.S.
I made it clear I don't support U.S. intervention. I mean, that should explain a lot. I would like to see that countries pursue their path of development that is in the best that they agree on. Where you have erosion of democratic process, then I have a concern. And if that's the case in Venezuela, which it seems to be, then I have a problem with not that. I think that the Maduro's people probably are afraid of going to opposition, but they're a multi-party country, so the expectation that one day there will be a change of how Venezuelans see governance is real, and maybe that's where we are.
All right, Matt, I will just go ahead and leave a message. I heard Crispin said that the U.S. had submarines in the region, and he think it's because maybe the Russians and they might have submarines, but the submarines are actually part of the carrier group. When a carrier goes out, it goes out with a certain amount of military power. There's battleships, there's refuelers, and also there is submarines. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there is submarines in the area. That is just, the submarines are just part of a carrier group. All right? So I just wanted to let him know that.
Thanks for that clarification. But there have also been reports that one of the ways that the Russians have had a presence in Venezuela is through having their submarines there.
All right, let's see if we can take a few more calls and we'll wrap it up here for the afternoon. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Hi, good day, Matt. I'm calling from New York.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and the rest of Dominicans.
The same to you, sir.
I occasionally listen to your program, but I never really call in. But when I listen to Blessing's last sentence or comment about he supports Kamala Bissessa, although he gives us some blows, Blessings need to do some research about this woman and her leadership in Trinidad right now. These people have been so racist towards black people. You know right now what they're doing in Trinidad? They're dismantling most of the cultural, support that the black people are taking part of. For example, Steelman and Carnival. So Blessing needs to do some research about Kamala Prasad Bissessa. These are a bunch of racist gutter rats running this country.
No. We can't allow you to call the Prime Minister God the Rat. I apologize on your behalf. Okay, sir? 2:34. No, let's not get personal. Let's speak to the facts and, of course, continue the discussion. Hello, talk to him on the telephone. Yes, please. Hello? Hello? Caller? It doesn't mean if you don't support somebody, you have to, refer to them in that manner. Okay, please. Be a little respectful. Before you go, can you just chime in on what you see happening in the Caribbean? It appears that our friend in St. Vincent, Comrade Gonzalez, seems to be running out of breath there. We hear his appeal, so the people can allow him to stay at least one more term at 79. What's your quick thoughts on that, Chris?
Clearly,
Tonight is the night. Huh?
Yeah, clearly he has not prepared for his retirement. He wants to be in power still. Matt, St. Vincent is an interesting country in the sense that Ralph Gonzalez has largely governed on a one-seat majority for most of the time he's been in power. This 25 years he's been in power. I think in the last election, he won by 2 seats. And even in that one of the 2 seats that he won,
very close.
He won by, it was 1 vote. They won by 1 vote in that one constituency. The opposition in St. Vincent is not weak. They're pretty strong. And St. Vincent is a much, well, I was going to say that, well, St. Vincent, politically, they are much more enlightened than Dominicans. I can say that. I'm not saying something negative about our country. I'm just saying that the political literacy in St. Vincent is higher than in Dominica. And that's the same case in the other islands, like St. Lucia in particular. Even St. Kitts and Antigua. I find that their level of political knowledge and discourse is much higher than here. And we've done some things here that has not been good for public discourse about politics. I find that in Dominica, we've allowed a kind of a culture to emerge of such blatant partisanship that doesn't allow for conversation with the other side. Matt, you can't have and that's my big problem about the current approach of the Skerrit government, and that is, you can't build a country with half of the population not allowed to participate in the process of development. And then when the opposition tries to put a stand for democratic process, it's met with tear gas and RSS. I mean, that's unacceptable kind of political development in my view.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a fundamental disagreement with that approach to politics, because it breeds resentment and eventually violence. Matt, that's what I worry about Dominica, that we are really on a nice edge of 2 camps. One of them is armed because they have the police, and the police has been used as an army, a political army. I mean, that's ridiculous. In a small country? No. It's unacceptable, the behavior of the Dominican police on democracy questions, Matt. I have real serious problems. And that the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights have put it very clearly what's happening in Dominica, and that Dominica needs to reverse course. Otherwise, we will head for a civil conflict in this country.
You sense that?
Matt, it's there. There's an undercurrent of instability in Dominica. There is a serious undercurrent of instability, and you cannot. This is further buttressed by the reality that the police is inept. They have to get RSS to come and help the police here. We've never seen that before, Matt, where the police has gotten so disorganized as an institution of state that it can't manage the security challenge in the country. So we have to get the RSS. And we have to bring the RSS to terrorize villages, especially Salisbury. I hope one day that the Salisbury people will find some redress in the courts, because the behavior of the state towards the people of Salisbury is totally unacceptable.
Let's take one call and we'll wrap it up here in the afternoon. Very interesting comments there by the former ambassador. Are you there, caller? Quickly.
Yeah, just quickly, Matt. Some people quick to hear, but they don't know how to listen. In the context, Matt, I was talking about a move about CARICOM. Don't you understand that's what I was saying, Matt?
Yes, I understand that, yeah.
So it is sad for the brother to call and talk about Kamala being racist and about trying to stoop to the gutter and all of that foolishness. I'm just saying, Matt, I want to support that brother 100%. It seems like the whole region is more educated than Dominicans politically, because all they want to say, oh, you're talking politics. They don't even know politics is the lifeblood of a system or society. Thank you.
Thank you, Crispin. Of course, your final comments on Venezuela, and as we go, you're going to be here for next few days.
Yes, I will be here for the next few days. I hope maybe I make a side trip to Martinique. But Matt, we can only wait. It's a long game. Whether President Trump will have a second heart and decide they're not going to intervene, and if Mr. Maduro, here's the thing though that concerns me. Even if Mr. Maduro were to resign tomorrow morning, somebody is going to take power in Venezuela, and it will not. Most likely there will be a fight between the Maduro's support base and the oligarchy. Because part of the problem in Venezuela is that the people who would come to power, represented by Maria Machado, that's the rich people of Venezuela. That's the oligarchy. Chavez had displaced them. They'll be coming back to power if the U.S. intervenes in Venezuela. And what they will do is they'll let the American corporations take control again of the oil industry and whatever other resources.
You see that, huh?
Yes. In fact, well, I not only do I see that, that's what the lady has said. That's what Maria Machado has said she's going to do if she comes to become the president. How will she be allowed to become the president? Well, I don't know. I mean, if the army is not decapitated in an intervention, it will be the army that will really have the power in Venezuela after Maduro. That's if the army is not decapitated. If it is decapitated, then the U.S. will try to install an army and try to build like they did in Iraq. And whether that will be able, whether Venezuela will ever be stable for a long time, these are the things that concerns me next. The stability of Venezuela post U.S. intervention.
Crispin Gregor, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All the time, every time, anytime. Thank you very much. Thank you. The war will go on, huh?
Devastation and destruction from heaven's time began. Has been inflicted time and time and again by man and every man. Yet man would learn from history, makes them more violent, producing deadly weapons with nothing but evil intent. So the war will never be over, peace will never be seen, long as man in his quest for power keep destroying fellow human beings, fellow human beings. I'm telling you, nobody, when you're ready to think of it, nobody wins the war. But the agony of defeat will linger, they can still hitting one another superpower, looking for more power. As long as violence and aggression still dwell in the hearts of man, brother, you are the war. It cannot be won. No, you are the war. It cannot be won. Fall out from what scale? Plenty agony, plenty pain. Economy left in shambles that may never rise up again. Collapse of the money.
I'm hearing a story about a young man from the Bellevue area who seems to have been arrested allegedly by, or reportedly by the police this morning for defending himself against a Chinese national on the school project after the Chinese punched him in the face. Reportedly, I can't confirm, and he hit back. I'll follow that story and find out, yeah? I heard the Chinese national got a fractured call there. And that matter is under investigation. I will follow that story, okay?
They're not the one.
Mr. Crispin is very right on the political maturity in Dominica. That's concerned. I've made that observation a long time ago.
It's just like a racket. It pays dividends for a few. But what does it profit the masses? I mean laymen like me and you. While the leaders train their chest pain, using the masses as pawn with political propaganda. The masses still go on. The soldiers, they never started, but they keep their life easily. While the leaders are in a safe place, working hard. Strategy. So you see, telling you nobody, oh nobody. When you really look at it, nobody wins a war. It has been the passage of history with the blood of the weak and the mighty. Great culture magnificently. War has created and destroyed political boundaries as it goes on. This love, it cannot be won. The war will go on. No. The war will go on. It cannot be won. Object of voice simple. That conquer and take over. It doesn't matter how many people that wipe out in the massacre. The enemy must be vanquished. The battle has to be won. But the conflict will never be over. But the enemy has gone. There are going to be more dictators, more Hitlers, more Saddam Husseins. And with these lunatics in power, it will just get all over again. I'm telling you, nobody, oh, nobody. When you're ready, think of it, nobody wins a war. It's a spiritual revolution. To stop this brutal aggression. Oh, it's peace in the world will always be over. As long as the quest for wealth and power still live in the hearts of man.
The war will go on. Hello, talk to me. It's a Thursday afternoon Q95. Hello, yes.
Matt, I was watching Roosevelt carriage in Dubic of grandbaby, and he was checking the houses. He built there for so long, and they were standing there.
Mm-hmm.
I heard him say, it just come on my phone, and the guy doesn't look for carriage. I heard him say he's going to look about it to distribute it just now. Maybe election is in the air too.
I don't know. That's his constitutional right to call election any time, right? What is a fair thing? I think, I was invited to participate in that journey this morning, but time is of the essence, huh? Oh boy, I think I need to hear that song again, man. The war will go on, huh? One more time, Sandra. Singing Sandra.
Devastation and destruction from heaven since time began. I've been limited time and again by man and then another man. Yet man would learn from history. It makes them more violent.
At 2:49. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Yes, man. Now, when I read that, I said, well, why is it the local are the ones that always getting arrested whenever something is done between the local and the Chinese? It was a couple of years ago when a man from Maho, was asked to apologize to a Chinese after the Chinese kicked him. Can you remember that?
I remember that, but again, when I'm saying blue, we need to investigate further to find out whether that's actually true. It may be true, but let's find out a little more, can we?
Yeah, no.
Yes,
Mr. Suki had some kind of confrontation after he's going to defend himself
Yes.
for his money he spent.
That's
And
true.
Chinese wanted to fight with him. What happened to that? A couple of years ago, year before last, a Chinese man hold up a fella outside. Outside, because if you check on the videos, just outside the compound at the back of the grammar school there, the Chinese man hold the guy. They bring him inside the building because the videos was running around with that. Next thing, the man was arrested and he went for a month in jail. What really going on in Dominica between the Chinese government and the people of Dominica? We want to know because Chinese cannot come here and want to abuse people. If that happens for true, abuse people and people have to be the one being arrested. No, that shouldn't happen. That is nonsense in our black country.
What I'll try to do, I'll try to find the guy that says from Bellevue so we can see, what's if that information is correct. We'll try to find him and of course try to do an interview, Blue. That would be very important, yeah? Thank you. Mr. Suki, what's the latest in that case with you and the Chinese? Is the Chinese against the laws? Or the laws for the Chinese? Protecting the Chinese? Very real question, fair questions. Is that part of the MOU? I've never heard of Chinese have been arrested.
Just like a rat, it pays dividends for a few. But what does it profit the masses? I believe men like me and you. While the leaders train their chest,
Hey, Jerry, my boy in New York, the big Republican, Jerry in New York, man.
their life is in need. While the leaders
Say Trump is boss.
working strategy.
That's a big Trumper there, boy. Defend this Trump, huh?
Nobody, when you really look at it, nobody wins a war. It has been the passage of history with the blood of the weak and the mighty. Great culture and war shall create and destroy political boundaries as it goes on.
Hello, talk to me on the telephone, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Matt, how can you support a known race? That boggles my brain. You are a black, a person of color, and you're supporting a known racist. How do you compute that, man? Good afternoon.
It doesn't matter how many people that wipe out in the massacre. The enemy must be vanquished. The battle has to be won. But the conflict will never be over. Because the enemy that is born. There are going to be more dictators, more Hitlers, more Saddam Hussein. And with these lunatics in power, it will just get all over.
The song for the afternoon there, The War. Sing at the top of your voice.
Think of it, nobody wins a war. The spiritual revolution.
Tiny man going marry God. And the guy going to bring back his stuff for to tell him the good. And he run the guy with a cutlass. But you can't go in a village where the people pull a cutlass and pull a cutlass. And you know what happened to the Chinese? You know what happened to him? All right. They can go to the place and do things, but at certain place they cannot go and do what they want to do. Because you can't go in a village where the people pull a cutlass and run a man with a cutlass. You understand?
Press C. My friend, I want to repeat what you were saying about Jerry, okay? The man has his democratic right to support who he wants. Oh boy. Hello, talk to me on the telephone.
Mark,
How you doing? Sakafet. Oh, yeah.
not bad. Good afternoon.
All right.
I wasn't calling, but I had to call. Let me tell you,
pertaining to that thing there before time I hear what them Chinese dealing with us and about the arrest and no arrest. Right now, and you know this news all about. I was listening a couple of times back that the Antigua government they have what they call it, something zone, economic zone with somebody they call leader, some Chinese youth leader. And when they come and say it's not true, but they were saying that they want to give them their own custom, their own police, their own everything, island in an island. So I don't know much investigate if anything like that happening because I can't understand. Because if God must have me out of Dominica, it's Chinese. No Chinese, I don't mind, another one want to go down. But maybe other, you see one, I wouldn't be working by them neither because I don't feel sorry for the man who's the Chinese beating because they shouldn't working for Chinese. And if by all means I had to work for Chinese in Dominica, but when one give me a last day, I try to delete a couple of them. Another one, then another arrest me for one because that is wrong. Chinese is just even supposed to be second class citizen there. The car was treating us and I was vexing them because I woke up a Chinese man. Maybe I don't know. I tried him on getting my gun. Bye bye.
I think I intended to play this one there. It's 2:56 in the afternoon. Monitor the sports wrap tonight. You might be getting some live reports. The flow polls close at about 5 o'clock this afternoon. Let's find out after the big plea from Ralph Gonzalez last night. Or on Tuesday night, you know.
Caribbean Sea. Williams. Yes, smooth and free. But sadly, Eric Williams passed away. The ship hit rough water that day. Someone turned the bridge over to a captain named Chambers. My blood crawls, things start to fall. Hold me head when I say, Captain. Ship is sinking. Captain, this seas are rough. Oh yes, we got can go.
Everybody, come back to labor if you're true. Please, please, help us to help you. Lift us up. Lift me up, please. I tell you, lift me up. Please, come up so that we can be lifted up together. We're going to first world status. Let us be the NDP. Worse than they ever got licked. Young people, women, elderly, men, everybody. Come back home to labor if you're true. Please, please, help us to help you. Lift us up. Lift me up, please. I tell you. Lift me up. Please cover us up so that we can be lifted up together. We're going to first world status. Let us be the NDP. Worse than they ever got licked.
Oh boy. Will the people of St. Vincent listen now? And take Mr. Rouse over the finish line? Or will we see a change in governance in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? It's a tight race to the finish line. Listen to the sports wrap tonight. You'll have some live reports. Someone says it sounds like Scarrow's last plea in the last election. Well, monitor Q95 from 6 o'clock. On Sports Wrap, you might hear a few results.
She never once ever hesitated.
Is there change on the horizon, or will Vincentians continue on that same journey? I'm sure by tomorrow or tonight you'll hear, huh? Until that time, Dominica. Oh boy, you guys trouble somewhere. They want to hear when that during the last election when scary Prime Minister Scary cried there. Remember that?
Come back. I love Dominica. I believe in Dominica, and I shall forever remain in the service of Dominica. Wherever I go, whatever I do, I shall always be to me.
Yes, that's the time yesterday. PM was shedding some tears there. Yes, I remember that day. Yes.
If only there was something I could have done to restore the credibility of this beautiful message. Money is no problem. Now there's a lot of fingers pointing, suspicion running strong. Used to be blamed for all her failures. Used to be blamed doing her wrong. Now please remember I'm warning you. But at the end she had to hold the keys to her fall.
You know, finding a house sometimes can be a very difficult job. Getting a report, of course, a notice there from Mr. Bernard Morrow in Massac. He has a 3-bedroom house, including a master bedroom, fully furnished, for rent in Subuli, Massac. Contact 245-1335, okay? If you're interested in finding a house. A 3-bedroom house in Massac. Subuli, okay? With a master bedroom. Contact Mr. Bernard Morrow in Massac, okay? The number is 245-1335.
We don't know. Somebody put an application to the World Bank. How do we make them have to do the repair? We don't know.
Let's do that one more time before we go. This is, of course, the talk on the block, Dominica. This is us. This is it for us here. I've got to go until tomorrow. Let's find out what happens in St. Vincent tonight, huh? Is that ship sink? I've got to go now.
A luxury liner sailing the Caribbean Sea.
Is that ship sailing from St. Vincent today?
Williams.
Only the Vincentians will decide.
Eric Williams passed away. The ship hit rough water that day. Someone turned the bridge over to a captain named Chambers. My blood crawl, things on the wall. Hold me head when I say, Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. Oh yes, we got tank almost empty. No electricity, we oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa. The Trinidad, oh, she was a beauty with wealth that few surpassed. And in her day, she sailed majestically. There were few in her class. Faithfully she fulfilled her sailor's need. Some were overpowered by greed and fulfilled but slow. Some took by bulk and go. Now she looked dull, she's at a lull. She could barely sit on her hull. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, the seas are rough. We have some almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we stay on it and perish slow? We don't know. We don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa. The Trinidad, in her day of sailing, she was a friend to one and all. She never once ever hesitated to answer all SOS calls. And yes, but she always did her best to help out those in distress. Now it's so sad to see she's in difficulties. Though she helped share from under the chair and scientifically Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain, these seas are rough. We got some almost empty, no electricity. We oil pressure really low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we sit on it and perish slow? We don't know, we don't know. Captain, you tell me what to do. Whoa.